I'm Rob Sarney, and you're listening to What the Heck Fintech, where you'll experience and learn that Fintech is Fin Life. Let's get started. Well, welcome everybody. You're in for a big treat today. We have Ken Mooney. Now, Ken, he's been around deep into the fintech ecosystem. He's done so many things. He's a professor. He was in the financial industry. He's an advisor. He's a board member. He's a coach. He's a mentor. He's a judge for pitch competitions. And near and dear to my heart, he's a Suffolk alumni like me, right? MBA alumni. So, Ken, now, I wouldn't do it justice ever. How about you give a little player profile? How'd you get into this fintech? And you're a similar age to me, and you probably doing this well before it had a cool name like Fintech. Take it away.
Well, Rob, thanks a lot for inviting me. I'm really looking forward to talking about all these different things that I love to do. My story is not that much different than a lot of the speakers that I have in some of my classes. I started out really in traditional banking. I started at State Street. I went through the training program, and I ended up as a chief credit officer at one point. Wow. But then I thought there's got to be a better way. I just got tired of being in the larger institution. And so I actually got involved in starting a fintech company. The fintech company was called Foundation, and it was a digital lending platform that we created. I found two partners. It was a company we started in New York, and I liked it because I thought it would be kind of the wave of the future. Now, remember, this is probably like 12, 13 years ago. There's a lot of lending platforms now that exist, but there really weren't that many. There were some, like Cabbage was one of them, and it was something that I like to do, which is lending money, something I was trained to do, but it had technology involved in it. And then along the way in doing that, the school, Suffolk University, came to me, and I did some guest lectures. And then they asked me, well, you're involved in fintech. Could you kind of create a fintech class? So I created this course called Intro to Fintech. And I'm teaching that right now every other semester at Suffolk University. And then it was just kind of a natural to create a course in blockchain. And the course is called The Blockchain Revolution. And the way I got involved with that is I was, judging some, pitching contests, and there was a member of an angel investing group called Chain Reaction Boston. And he said, gee, you should come to our group and learn about blockchain. So I did that. And at the same time, I was learning about blockchain. So I designed a course. And I'm also teaching another course that it's called the Seed Initiative. And it's a program about training our students to work with actual live companies on a consulting basis to find acquisition funding for them. So I was doing that. And then the third piece, I guess, is I've always been involved in investing or interested in private investing. So I've been an angel investor for many, many years. And now I'm involved with a couple of angel groups that, actually I was at Launchpad for a couple of years, a really great organization. But then I decided to really focus on this group called Chain Reaction Boston because I just really like the blockchain and the Web3 space, which is a part of fintech. So that's kind of my background. It's sort of evolved from traditional finance and to actually being an operator to teaching it, but I guess you'd call me a lifetime learner. That's what I'm doing. I'm constantly learning.
That is great. I want to dig a little more in the blockchain class because a little bit I've seen, at WPI, the computer science department at WPI didn't want to touch blockchain. So we had at WPI had to hire a blockchain person, a professor, to teach it. Is that common? Did you see that at Suffolk? It's like it seems like it's more in the business school because you're in the business school, correct? In the Sawyer Business School.
Yes, I'm actually the business school and the entrepreneurship school.
Yeah, very nice. So did they welcome blockchain, or do you have to do it via the business school?
They were thinking of creating a course, but they needed someone. There wasn't anyone on staff at the time that knew a lot about blockchain. and the head of the department knew that I did.
Yeah.
So he asked me to do it. And, I teach because it's fun. I love working with students, and I'm always learning. And one of the things I do in my classes is I invite a lot of practitioners into the classroom. It helps the students understand when they're talking to a CEO of a company or a chief business officer. They also network also. So I had some of those connections in, the ecosystem, the blockchain ecosystem. Plus I'd read a lot about it, and, I'm constantly evolving my syllabus. I change it because it's, blockchain is evolving so quickly. So that's how it came
Right.
about.
Wow. And the little bit that me teaching in fintech too, I noticed, if you had a textbook, it's old before it gets printed. I mean, so you have to keep it fresh. You have to keep the people that are in there deep doing it. I mean, otherwise it's not going to be relevant, right? And what do you think? It sounds like you're seeing the same thing.
Absolutely. I don't actually have a textbook. And not only do my students not have to pay for a textbook, I provide all the materials that are available because it's constantly being updated. And that's kind of the fun part of it. It's not something that I'm teaching the same thing over and over again. The students can get bored. I'll get bored. And so there's new things. It's an innovative technology. And quite frankly, all the best applications haven't been figured out yet for blockchain.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. In many areas. So fintech is so broad. I think I know the answer to this question I'm going to ask you, but you might surprise me. What are your favorite areas in fintech, like right now, and what are you looking in the future, and why? Why is it your favorite? Why does it get you fired up?
Well, my problem is I like everything. So it's quite a wide range in fintech, but besides blockchain and Web3 and crypto, those things that we've already talked about a little bit, the payment system is really evolving rapidly also. Everyone's got a mobile phone. I mean, there are millions of people have mobile phones now that they can process transactions. Payments are most interesting because there's trillions of dollars that go through the system all the time. And, that's where some of the most innovative things have to occur, especially with cross-border types of transactions and that sort of thing. So I'd say really, one of the areas to focus on would be payments. And also just recently with the passing of the Genius Act that dealt with stablecoins are also going to become, I think, a little more prominent in terms of transactions. The other thing, I like is lending because it's kind of in my background. I was doing it for 30 years. I understand it. So there's all sorts of lending platforms that are fintech platforms out there. Neobanks and challenger banks, virtual banks are also emerging too. And some of them are actually like Nubank and Chime are starting to make money. They're not just growing and scaling, but they're starting to make money. Infrastructure is really cool. I've had a couple of guest speakers coming from Plaid, and Plaid is this stealth secret company that's not secret that provides all the data, for banks and fintechs. So infrastructure is kind of an area that investors have invested a lot of money in, and of course AI.
Yep. Yeah, yeah. Plaid's a big, platform so you can get your development done, and they have everything out of the box and get you cranking. So yeah, so that's very cool.
One of the things, if I could just jump in and say that I'm very thankful if you looked at my LinkedIn postings during the school year, I always reference the practitioners that come into my classroom. And I have to thank all of them again because they're so generous with their time. But I find a lot of people, they like to talk to students. I think they like talking to students to give back, but I also think there's a little recruiting that's going on too.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's the best way to. It's better than going to a job fair. You're interacting with them. You're hearing their great questions. You're helping them. You can hear their passion. If you're actually looking for some of these great students to join you, which it's a great process for everybody all around, right? And obviously, and I always love bringing guest speakers in because I don't have to talk that much. So that always is a great saver.
Well, that's also a secret reason for
That's a,
me
yeah,
too.
yeah, yeah, yeah. We'll keep that down. We'll keep that. Shh, shh. Yeah. So, so you kind of hit on it, right? So, fintech, your students, the careers in fintech. What do you see, and what are the opportunities here for all the great students, undergrad, grad, and all these different disciplines that could move into fintech? Because it takes a village to figure this stuff out, in my opinion.
Yeah, I always promote the thought that fintech and blockchain offer great opportunities. If you want to go to some place you're interested in, but then again, growth creates money. You always go where the money is, right?
Mm,
And that's where you get the financial rewards. And it's not just about financial rewards. It's also about younger companies. Now, fintech is maturing a little bit. Blockchain is still early, but those types of cultures are innovative. They're exciting. It might be something you want to be part of. Um, you know, you can even go to, you don't have to go to just startup companies and new companies. But plenty of financial institutions and traditional institutions are trying to become fintechs.
mm.
It's a funny thing is, will fintechs take over the world, or will these large legacy institutions maintain their market share? And I think they're becoming a little bit more like each other. But what I would say is, where there's growth, there's opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen very similar where startups want to be like the bigger business because of all the capital and so they can get things done. And the bigger companies want to be like the startups, fast and nimble. So when they collaborate, and I see that like with Fidelity, I see it with Mass Mutual, they have their incubators or their labs. And so that now they like the bigger financial industry doesn't have to run with scissors with something. They can have it like kind of carved off and have that startup figure this out, right? On whatever synthetic data or whatever kind of data, right? So they're all learning, they're all helping each other, and the funding also comes and gets help from for the startup too, from the bigger financial. So yeah, so it's a marriage. It was always that early on. Are they in competition? But I see more collaboration than ever. Are you seeing the same stuff? It sounds like you are.
Yeah, I think, in teaching my class, I have to do a lot of research. And early on, it was fintechs were going to take over the world, right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of good things. They want to solve problems, they want to make things more efficient, more transparent. And, part of it's financial inclusion. That's one of the coolest things about fintech. It's about
Yep.
expanding the pie a little bit. I mean, there are many, I have a lot of international students in my class, and I was talking to one of the students who was from Mexico, and he was explaining how his family they have a bank near him, but they have a
Mm.
phone. So fintech is really, good for something like that, solving problems. But it was going to take over the world. It's going to compete with traditional finance. And I think the traditional financial institutions were like, oh, they don't, we're dominating the industry. But I think both realized that fintechs have a lot of great ideas. They have good systems. So, I'll give you a good example. One of the major banks didn't have a system to do the PPP programs during COVID. They just couldn't process that many applications for small loans, and a fintech stepped up to the plate. They hired them, and they were able to process it. So there's a collaboration, and that's I think what it's moving into. There's more partnerships that are occurring right now. It's friendly competition in a way, but I think big institutions, I don't have that capability. Let me use them as a vendor or something. And I think fintechs have realized, traditional institutions have a lot of money.
Mm.
They have a lot of capital. Banks have deposits they want to deploy. So it's kind of, there's some good partnerships that are being created.
Right. And big financial companies have a lot of data. The bigger they are, the more data they have. So that's like gold, to get fintech cranking.
Excellent point, because that's one of the themes in my class is data is the new gold, or it's the new oil. It's the most important thing. And we talk about some of the companies how you monetize the data, because
Yeah.
that's another thing that's occurring. The other thing I would throw out there that's going to change quite a bit is, with data, you need privacy. You need security. There's open banking that's going to occur. But it's all revolving around the use of data. And, in Europe, they're ahead of us in terms of open banking laws. And everyone has personal data. People shouldn't profit from your data. You should be able to control and profit yourself. So I think that's another evolution that's occurring.
Right. Yeah. Who owns the data? Is it the customer, or is it the institution that holds that brokers and moves the data? That's where I love the way you framed it. U.S. is behind in that one, in my opinion. They got to catch up.
There's only a few states. There's some states, California is taking the lead, but there are many states that are creating laws about that, and it's evolving. And I think there'll be pressure at a federal level. At some point, legislation will occur, just like stable coins and crypto. And I've always been a big believer in you don't avoid risk, you manage the risk. And one of the ways you manage the risk is to create guidelines and what's going on. So it's innovation can be a slow process at times, but it's inevitable.
Yeah. Please come back to part 2 with Ken Mooney, where Ken talks more about non-crypto blockchain, AI, innovation, and all the great events happening in Boston. Thank you for listening to What the Heck, Fintech. Make sure you tune into our next episode as we continue to interview fintech leaders and share real-world stories from across the fintech ecosystem, so you can fully understand that fintech is fin life.